Welcome back to the show. This is episode 2 of Ground Up. We are here live. We're not live, but we are here in my Brooklyn apartment. We're live from Brooklyn. We're not live. This is episode 2 of Ground Up, a podcast about how to build a great life from the ground up. I think you saw me pause there. That's because I still have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm still figuring this out, trying to figure out the kind of content that I want to talk about. I think at first it's going to be a bit business heavy. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I built my business, some of the mistakes I made, perhaps lending some lessons to those who are just getting started out, because I think it's obviously very difficult to make it as a freelancer. I think it takes a lot of time. Nobody just starts freelancing right away without any connections and is successful. If they tell you that they're doing that, they're lying. So what I want to do with this podcast is talk about business, but I think I also want to tap into the cultural stuff, being minimalism, the documentary we made, talking about some of these concepts, because I think that if you're doing it right, that your business and your personal life shouldn't necessarily be completely separate, especially if you're a freelancer or business owner. I think that you should be able to integrate both of these. If you really do what you love and you're passionate about it, I don't think there's any reason that they should be separate. Yes, I don't think that when you're out with dinner with friends or with your girlfriend or boyfriend, you should be on your phone writing a blog post. That's not what I'm talking about. So today what I want to talk about is the 5 things that I learned from making my first feature-length documentary, Minimalism. So 3 years ago, we went out on the road and we started filming without really a plan in mind. And this was a very small crew. It was, to be quite honest, it was just myself. It was me. Josh was there for most of the interviews. He conducted most of them.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation. I'll ask.
But in terms of the filming and capturing of footage and directing and all this stuff, it was on me. So I learned a lot. I will say that I do have a little bit of experience in that. So I say a lot that I had no idea what I was doing. And that's true to a certain degree. I did know what I was doing in that I've made videos before. This is all I've ever done from the beginning. When I started my professional career, it was shooting wedding videos. I've done dozens of wedding videos. I've done bar mitzvah intro videos. That's a thing. I will not show them to you. They're embarrassing. Other embarrassing things I've done, the local television commercial spot. The one that you look at and you cringe and you think to yourself, who the hell got paid to make that? I did. I'm the one that got paid to make that. Not proud of myself, but you have to do what you have to do to make a living. That's what I talked about in my last podcast, was taking this reality show gig that I, probably at this time I obviously wouldn't take, but at the time I had to build up my portfolio. I had to get things going. So I have lots of experience making videos. I have zero, up until this point, 2014, I had zero experience making a feature-length documentary. But how do you get experience? You just do it. You pretend like you know what you're doing. What I learned from this. Number 1, I will say, stay organized. If you look at my timeline, or if you look at my bins and folders within Final Cut Pro 10, yes, I use Final Cut Pro 10, go screw yourself, you will notice that it is pretty unorganized. I didn't do a great job of it. I could have done a lot better. Small projects, not staying organized is a pretty big problem. For the big projects, if you're not organized, it's a massive problem. And I think if you go 3-4 months into a project without being organized, without really knowing where all your footage is, where all your content is, you're going to be screwed. It's going to eventually lead to a lot of headaches. And I'm 100% sure that it will lead to a worse product. The final project that you do will be worse if you're not completely organized. The second thing I will say is don't be a perfectionist early on. And this is something that I talk with a lot of creatives about. And it's the fact that we, in a lot of ways, we want everything to be perfect before we show it to anybody. So we'll kind of hibernate in our little editing alcove, also as I like to call it, my bedroom. And we will work tirelessly to make sure that this edit is completely perfect. Whether it's a 5-minute edit or a 60-minute edit, we want it to be perfect so we can show it to people and they'll be amazed and they'll say, oh my God, wow, you're so talented. But the thing is, when you're working with other filmmakers, other creatives, you have to be able to get feedback from them. You need their advice. You need their input. You're not just making this for yourself. You're making this for hopefully a lot of people. And the people that are really important in the beginning are your co-producers and filmmakers. They're going to be able to tell you if you're on the right path. They're going to be able to give you really important input that's going to help to shape and craft this narrative as you create it over time. You can become a perfectionist later. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for you to get into the details and finesse each transition and each audio bump. But for now, just whip something together, share it with your filmmaker friends and your co-producers, get some feedback, and then start to edit. And that leads me to my next point, number 3, keep editing and keep editing. And then once you're done with that, edit some more. And I don't mean edit as in, I mean it as in editing footage, but edit down. So you're going to start out with all this footage and you need to edit down to make sure you have the best of everything you've shot and created. And when you continue to edit down over time, you'll finally have something. You'll have this film that you're so proud of. And then after 2 weeks of sitting on it and looking at it and reviewing it, you're going to go back and look at it and you're going to realize it's the worst thing you've ever done. And you need to start editing some more. And this is what we did with Minimalism. So I would say we had gone through hundreds of revisions, and I have seen this film in its many iterations thousands of times. And I will tell you, this actually leads into my next thing. You're never going to feel like you're done. You're never going to feel like the project's over. You need to bust your ass. You need to keep editing, keep going as long as possible. And then at some point, you need to actually stop and not come back to it and start editing. Honestly, the only time I'm happy is when I am editing a project, when I am in that moment and I am shaping and crafting it, because that is the moment that I feel comfortable, because I feel like I have control at that point. But the moment that I give up control, the moment that I create my master, I send it out for color and sound, it's the worst day that I have. It's the best day and worst day. It's the best in that there's a sense of relief to be done with a project, but it's the worst because I don't ever want to stop, and I know I could make it better. And I guarantee if you talk to any creative across the board, they will agree that it's incredibly hard to know when to stop. Set some fake deadlines. Create some real deadlines. Submit to a film festival. You have to be able to, especially on an original work, something that perhaps isn't funded from the outside, when nobody else is asking, where is this? You need to be able to create deadlines on your own. The 5th and final thing that I will say, the reason why this film was completed, the reason why I as a filmmaker was able to make this film was because I had other people. And it's going to sound corny. This is kind of like the whole message of the film though, right? Is that the things aren't necessarily important. The camera gear, all this stuff that we use to make the film, it has its place. They're tools. But without the people that we came together to make this film, it absolutely 100% would not have happened. I do not have the personal willpower as an individual to do this on my own. I also do not have the connections and resources and the talents that my co-producers had to be able to execute on a vision and a project of this size. That's not to say you can't do a project. You could, I'm sure if you're writing a book, you could do it on your own. However, I will say that if you can find a way to include other people, whether it's, you have another friend who also wants to write a book and you both work on it together and you're sharing feedback throughout, being able to have people that hold you accountable and that make you, that are asking and emailing, hey, like, I can't wait to see the next cut. When do you think it's going to be done? That motivates me forward. So I am working on a new video series. It's called Making Minimalism, to which I go insanely in depth and I pull apart and deconstruct every little aspect of what it took to make minimalism, of what it took to go from nothing to just having an idea to Netflix. I'm going to be releasing that on YouTube soon. So subscribe to YouTube. That's it. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So that's episode 2. It's a wrap. We did it. I'm really proud of what we've done here. Guess what, guys? I'm going to do a 3rd episode. It's going to be dope. If you like this podcast, please subscribe on YouTube. That would be amazing. It's called The Ground Up Show. If you like this podcast, so subscribe to this. If you could do that, that would be great. I would be super grateful.